The oceans of the world absorb upwards of a quarter of the carbon that is on the planet. However, in case you hadn't noticed, there's not a single country around yet that has made promises about cutting their emissions and actually kept said promises. So, last year, make sure I get this right. Sorry, there's two organizations and I didn't want to get them mixed up. The Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, known as WHOI, HWOI, and part of the Loch Ness project, which is locking ocean carbon in the northeast shelf and slope. The rise in the temperature of the oceans has done more than just affect El Nino. So, last year, these two scientific groups made an experiment, and as you can see, 16,500 gallons of lye and bright pink dye were dumped into the Gulf of Maine. The dye was so the scientists could track the movement of the lye within the ocean. The idea is that since part of this problem is increasing the acidity of the oceans, doing this may help reduce the acidity of the oceans and thus make them more capable of trapping what we can't be bothered to stop causing. I will like to point out to you that the scientists themselves say carbon removal technology is meant to complement, not replace, the cutting of emissions by all of these filthy countries that just adore their fossil fuel addiction so much that they don't care if they kill all life on the planet. If the ocean continues to become too acidic, we're going to have problems with the marine life. However, at least they're considering this plausibility. If they put too much lye in, they can also affect the marine life. Things like oysters, clams, the coral reefs, plankton. Those things will all suffer if we keep fucking around with acidity levels and shit like that, rather than just admit that there is one thing we can do, and it is possible to do it now with all the green energy supplements and alternatives. You can give up the fossil fuels, but we just seem to love killing things too much. And I will point out that this whole thing will affect this. Now, I want you to understand, Florida didn't do this because they wanted to do something green. Florida, where Nestle is sucking up all of your fresh water and further destroying the Everglades, it doesn't care. We're talking about a state that wanted to use radioactive waste mixed into asphalt for your roads. So clearly your health and the health of anything else living on this planet doesn't mean anything. But they went and, as you see, 500,000 oyster shells they basically dumped into the Gulf of Mexico because, hey, that's where they came from, so what doesn't matter if we throw our garbage back in there, right? And inadvertently, and I guarantee it was inadvertently, helped create a new little shelf where marine life could start because of all the calcium and other things that the oyster shells will have. However, as I just tried to point out to you, that we can't seem to stop fucking with life on the planet and doing things that we think will fix it, like bringing mongoose to islands, bringing rabbits to islands, bringing invasive species. Humans will only do exactly the barest minimum, and giving up your fossil fuel addiction will require more than your minimum. Guess what? It would probably require at least 2 years of life being reasonably uncomfortable. But after that, you would actually be able to have the knowledge that your water is going to be cleaner, your air is going to be cleaner. You may not have as many fires, since technically we should be heading towards our next ice age. And yet we've brought the temperature of the planet up. We've raised the temperature of the ocean by almost 5 degrees. And when you consider how big the oceans are, that's a lot.